Well, that was kind of ominous. The music was kind of scary, but I wanted to say hello to everybody. I'm Ron,
I'm Judy.
and we're Full Time Dreams. So, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk. The end of July, everybody knew that we put a video out that I had gotten really sick for a period of time and trying to figure out what it was. Um, and it ended up being Lyme disease. So, we thought about trying to come up with a little bit of information for everybody about Lyme disease. And we've got somebody to come in with us tonight. We've got Karl off the grid coming in, and he just got the same diagnosis of Lyme disease. So we're going to go ahead and bring him up. If you're all set, you can. And
hey, how are you doing?
Hi, Karl.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you great.
Perfect.
You can go ahead. Let us know exactly a little bit about yourself and your channel and how things are going for you. And
excellent. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your live stream tonight. I'm a big fan of your show, and it's great to be able to share this with you. So, you wanted to know a little bit about my channel first?
Yes, sure. That would be great. So,
okay. Basically, I have adult children that are all grown up and moved out of state, except for the youngest two with the virus. They're college students. They moved back home. And we decided that we wanted to build an off-the-grid cabin out in the wilderness. And we couldn't figure out how to share video clips with them because they were too long. And so somebody suggested, why don't you start a YouTube channel? And then that way, Dad, we can see what's going on at the cabin and the build site, and we can be part of the excitement. And to my surprise, as I put it on YouTube, all of a sudden I started to get subscribers. And then when it came to the day that the cabin was actually delivered, because we had the shell built by an Amish company, the channel just took off, and it surprised us. And we're basically just trying to show people that have gone through hard times that even though your funds might be tight or limited, that, you know, even us poor people can afford to have a nice cabin off the grid. And so that's how we got started. And it's been just a real nice hobby to have. And I'm shocked at how quickly things have started to grow. So we just really enjoy doing it as a family. Right now, most of the time, I'm the only one that's on screen. My two adult sons have been on. They don't use their real names on there. Why? I don't know. It's kind of...
There's a lot of people that don't use their real names.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just been a blessing to be able to have it. So as far as the Lyme disease go, if you want me to share my story, I could do that now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you want to take a minute and say hi to everybody first?
Well, let's go ahead and say hello to a few people that showed up here.
Okay.
We got Nunya, Texas on the back 20. Thank you for coming in. And we got our moderators who are coming in here. We got Lucky Dog production moderator. Thank you, Sue.
Millie and James from Weekend RVing.
Yeah. And Avenger RV Adventure.
Say that 4 times fast.
Papa Drew, another moderator. Thank you for coming in. The RV DJ. Hi there. Thanks for coming in. So everybody knows this is Karl again from Karl's Off the Grid. And yeah, go ahead, Karl. We're talking about Lyme disease, and just going to go ahead with what happened and how you got your ordeal happening there.
So I conned my two brothers into going up to the cabin with me last, it was a week ago, Monday. And we were going to do some excavating of the land. And of course, to get them to go up there to work, I had to take them on a grouse hunt first early in the morning to kind of coax them into coming with me. And, you know, I didn't think anything of it. We were out in the woods. Now that it's winter time, I've never got a tick after, say, maybe the first week or second week of August. I didn't pay too much attention to any insects or anything like that. And as we worked throughout the day, I felt a burning sensation in my belt line off my right hip, and it was weird sensation. I thought maybe I had a rash or something of that nature. And so when I was in the cabin drying out my clothes, I took a quick look, and I was shocked. Not everybody gets the big target rash for Lyme's disease, but mine was pretty evident. I had a black mark in the center where the tick had bit me, and it was about the size of like a carpenter's pencils eraser. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes.
It's a little bit fatter pencil than normal.
Right.
And, so there was a black mark there. That wasn't a tick. That was a mark from the bite. And then I had a real deep red, like a blood red ring that went around that. And then the third ring that I had was just a pink raised ring. And right away, I had always heard about Lyme disease, but I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe that I would get it in winter. So I called one of my brothers in, and he looked at it, and he says, yeah, his wife had it, and she had a real bad case. He said, we're going to get you to the hospital right away.
Did you only get one rash from it?
Yes. I was one of the lucky ones where, even though it looked like a bad reaction, it was only one rash. I know a lot of people get multiple rashes all over, but for me, I only got the one rash. So, in the North Woods, we don't have, the closest town is probably a 45-minute drive away. And so we called first to find out if their medical clinic could even see me. And they said, well, by the time you get here, we'll be closed. So we'll try to give you a virtual visit with a doctor. So if anybody ever gets bit and the hospitals are closed, that's another resource that you can use. But unfortunately, they only did virtual visits till I think 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So I did have to wait till the next morning before a doctor could see me. And then they confirmed right away that that was most likely Lyme disease. And with Lyme disease, you can't do a blood test, or you can do, but you don't get a real accurate reading.
Right. It could be a false positive or a false negative. It's not.
Right.
Right. So when they look at it, most of the time it's identified just by sight. And then they'll start you right away with your medication. And then, 2-3 weeks after you've had the bite and you're aware of it, then they can do blood work on you. So that's kind of how I found out about it. And I've been trying to do a little bit of research on it, and I've never heard of anybody having a bite like that with that black thing in the middle. So I'm not quite sure what that was all about, if that was blood that was clotting or what it was, or maybe the tick was on me longer than I thought.
Right.
Well, we don't even know where Ron got bit. Do you want to tell your story now?
Yeah, I didn't have any idea that I had been bit by a tick at all. I've just like you, I've been in the woods and work outside and hike and camp and do everything. I've had many ticks over the course of years, and I know what they look like. I know how to deal with them and all of that stuff. But I was working, and the temperatures was really hot for the whole week. So on Friday, I got home and I was totally exhausted. I thought I was dehydrated, it was from dehydrating and all that type of stuff. So I went, and I could not sleep during the night. I was having a very bad time during the night.
Vivid dreams.
And then the next day, I started to feel a little bit better, but that was Saturday. But then on Sunday, I had a fever that started, and I had a 103-degree temperature, and that stayed constant for over the course of about 3 days, with me trying to keep the temperature down, sitting in the shower and taking Tylenol and all of that. And just like you with the COVID situation going on, I don't know if I was supposed to say that word, but
pandemic.
But with the pandemic going on, I go and get seen by the VA, and I had to go and make an appointment to be able to go to the ER. So they had to have a triage nurse call me and ask me questions. And then they determined, yes, go ahead and go to the ER. But in the meantime, I had gone, and when I first got the temperature, I went instantly and got a COVID test done to make sure that it wasn't COVID, because again, we're taking care of Judy's mom, who's 87 or going to be 87. And I kind of quarantined myself away from everybody. And because again, I didn't know that if we wanted to make sure it wasn't that, but we went, and then all of a sudden the rashes started. I started getting rashes everywhere on my ankles, on my legs. I had rashes on the side of my head, behind my ear, and all over my arms. But then I got a couple of rashes, one on my one arm that was definitely a bullseye, and then I got one on the inside of my leg that was a bullseye. And I wasn't bitten everywhere where I had the rashes. The rash, that's just the way my body reacted to it. And they say that everybody reacts differently to it. But then they kept on giving me COVID tests, and because they wanted it to be COVID by the way it sounded to me. But then all of a sudden, my doctor's like, "Well, you tested negative enough times. Why haven't we tested you for Lyme?" I said, "Well, I've been asking you to test me for Lyme since the beginning." But they tested me, and she started me on the antibiotics before they even did the blood tests or anything. And I did the antibiotics for 2 weeks. And so I don't know how long a period of time that they had you do it.
The test for the
No,
The antibiotics.
Oh, the treatment that they got you on, the medicine that they have you on.
they got me on that the following morning right away. As soon as I saw the doctor, he said, "Get your butt over and pick up the medication right away from the drugstore."
Right.
The quicker you get on it, the less likely you'll have side effects.
Right.
Fantastic Travels is here in the chat, and they're struggling with Lyme, and they said they did antibiotics for 2 months.
They had me on a 2-week. I did the antibiotics for 2 weeks. Did they do you for 2 or 3?
They did me for 21 days.
Yeah.
And then, did you feel your symptoms right away after you had?
I was, like I said, I was exhausted, and from like that, all of a sudden it was like somebody flipped a switch. I was totally exhausted and worn out, and I couldn't keep myself awake and the whole time that I had the temperature. But again, the symptoms reflect so many other things that it could be, so it's hard to determine that's what it is, especially because I didn't know I was bit by a tick. It's just all of a sudden I started having symptoms. But
I think it's pretty incredible that we had such different experiences when we got bit. And that's one of the reasons I was so excited when you guys reached out to me, because with Lyme disease, there really aren't that many resources and places that you can go to learn about it.
No, and most doctors, like my doctor, was completely clueless about Lyme. She actually had to actually consult with another doctor, and the 2 doctors were the ones that the other doctor gave her the course of action for her to take. So basically, she's learning about the disease through me by going along with all that.
And it mimics so many other diseases too. That's the other problem.
Yeah. And, as you enter different stages of Lyme disease, it can affect your heart. It can affect so many different things. And so I think that's why it's so hard to diagnose, because the doctors are just shooting in the dark, especially in a case like yours where you haven't seen the tick.
Right.
With me, I was lucky. I scratched at that black spot that was on my tummy, and off came this tiniest of ticks. And here in Wisconsin, we don't have many deer ticks. Most of the time I've been bit by wood ticks. So as soon as I saw that tiny little tick, right away I grabbed it, put it in a baggie where I knew it couldn't get away, and then inspected it to make sure that the head was still on it and that I didn't have to look for a head that might still be in me or anything like that.
Right.
So I got off easy because, we had the tick. And then for people that are listening too, it's not a bad idea if you do find that you have a tick bite and you're starting to show the symptoms, keep that tick because, the hospital may ask for it. Different hospitals react differently. So
Now, the one thing that I found out, which is going to probably freak you out a little bit, they say that a tick has to actually be attached for 36 hours before that. That's what they say. That's what they say about it. But again, that could be just one person saying, one doctor, one study saying that.
no,
But
I'm in the woods probably 6 days out of 7. So if I'm not in the woods up at my cabin, then I'm in the woods down here on a family farm or a neighboring farm. So it could be that I was carrying that tick for a week and just didn't know it, or maybe even longer than that.
yeah. That's I work outside, and I actually run into more ticks in the city than I do in the woods.
Wow.
Of course, when you get deer, when I get a deer, I look at the deer, and I'll find ticks, a lot of ticks on the deer, but it's just a matter of knowing what they are and how to make sure that you protect yourself from them. And I'm hoping that when we're talking about this, we're not scaring anybody about it, but the biggest thing is just to be aware of your surroundings and what's happening with them. And like you were talking about the heart, when it gets into your heart, what that does is cause an irregular heartbeat because it blocks the electrical path between the two chambers. So that's how that affects your heart. But there's so many other things that it attacks too. It's not just your heart, and your central nervous system is the big one when it goes to that.
By trade, I'm a plumber, and I get subject to go into all sorts of environments. And it's funny that you bring up the city, people that might live in the city. I was at a regular customer's home, and she was out gardening, and it's right in the middle of the city here. And she said, "Karl, come check this out. I found this insect and I don't know what it is." And sure enough, it was a wood tick. And then about 3 days later, she found another one on her dog. And so just because you may not live in a country, it doesn't mean you're away from them. In the city, you'll have rabbits are going to carry them, raccoons, just about anything, birds. And so you're subject to getting this stuff wherever you are.
Right. Really, the only animal that they don't really hook up to is possums, and possums eat them like crazy.
Because possums groom themselves, so they eat the.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard the same thing.
I was going to try to go over a few of the.
And Justin and Christina says they don't really have ticks here, but they are in Canada.
It really depends on. I mean, there's different varieties of ticks, and they say that the black-legged ticks are the ones that spread the disease.
And they've had cases in all 50 states.
The black-legged tick is also called a deer tick, and I didn't know if there was anything that you had heard differently or.
No, I just had a question though with Justin and Christine. They're in Canada?
Yes.
Yeah, they're in Quebec.
Okay. So that's why they don't have ticks.
Right.
Well, they say, from what the information I read is they actually do have.
They do have some,
but not to the extent that we have it in the Northeast.
Right. It's actually
the deer tick is most prevalent in the Northeast. But like I said, they have found cases in all 50 states.
The ticks are definitely slowly migrating north. All the studies that I've read and heard from, especially Johns Hopkins, they do a lot of studying of Lyme disease, and they're finding that it's slowly moving north. So I hope it doesn't hit Canada, because boy, I love visiting Canada and a lot of friends and family up there.
Well, I know that the biggest thing that's happening with the tick explosion up here is that we've had about 3 warm winters in a row, and we don't get that sub-zero temperatures for any extended amount of time. We'll get 1 or 2 days of it, and then it's back up to freezing, and the snow's melting, and so been able to they get to hibernate really well. So we don't have the winter kill on them the way that we used to in the past also.
Correct. Yeah, and when the doctors looked at my tick wound and diagnosed that I had just been bit recently. Now it's been cold up by us for quite a few weeks already, and we've had snow dusting on and off for probably 2 or 3 weeks. Just like you said, it doesn't matter if you have snow out or if it's winter. As soon as you get one little warm day, they can come out of, I don't know if they hibernate or they're sleeping or whatever the heck they're doing, but yeah, you can get them for sure.
You want to answer this for Papa Drew?
What's Papa Drew got there?
So what insect eats ticks?
Insects?
Carpenter ant or fire ants, possums.
I got to look at my notes. She wrote a list of those things down. Yeah, as far as insects, that's what she's got down.
Guinea fowl, chickens, and fire ants are their predators, but they don't eat enough of them to make a difference.
Right.
But when you also said, as far as being cold, I couldn't find anything of when they come active and when they're not active, but our dog has gone out in the middle of winter and we found ticks on him.
Just going out with him being out in the yard.
Because he's only a little Pekingese, so he's real close to the ground. But we have found him in the middle of winter.
One of my subscribers shared this information with me, so don't take this as gospel because you never know what people are just with their experiences. But they brought up a good point. And a lot of these places that have like collars for your pets and whatnot to protect them from ticks, or if your dog gets or cat gets a tick shot, it's usually lasts you all the way up through November. So with that in mind, when I did my study with that Johns Hopkins, they said there's very few cases that are after like November. And if it is going to happen in the winter, it's going to be because of an extreme warm up. So
Right.
I think you're pretty safe once you get that constant cold weather.
Yeah, we don't treat our dog anymore because he's had seizures and stuff from the medication. So we don't give him flea and tick medicine anymore. So we have to be real careful with him. We've just found a tick on him the other day.
Yeah, we just took a tick off of him just a couple days ago. But
you need to travel with chickens.
Yeah, way to go, Drew. But I was just going to say that that they say that Lyme disease is the 5th most reported notifiable disease, and a notifiable disease is something that has to be notified. That if you get diagnosed with it, you're reported to the CDC, so that
so they can track.
So they can keep track of it, and they say that over 300,000 cases a year in the United States. But that's just the people that they say
that they actually diagnosed
have actually been diagnosed. There's so many other people because of the symptoms not, being so similar to other things that aren't diagnosed properly. And the longer that you go without getting diagnosed with it, the harder it is for them to treat it and the more problems that you end up having. And I still haven't gotten to the symptoms at all. There's 13 symptoms that they've got.
I meant to grab the tick key. Have you guys ever seen a tick key?
Have you? Do you have a tick key to be able to remove ticks, or is that something that?
No, I don't.
No.
It's a little thing. It almost looks like.
It looks almost like a key.
No, it's like a key. It's got a little slot, and you take it and you put the key and you push down on it and pull it to the front, almost instead of using tweezers, and then slowly pull it up. We use that. We keep one of those on our key rings for our RV and stuff like that, and use them for our dog most of the time.
Yeah. I'm going to go
And it's
through a few
effective,
symptoms.
where it removes the head and
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and
And
start with a
it
few of the
removes the head and
symptoms that
everything.
people.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah. The number one symptom is the rashes, and it's a bullseye, and they usually appear in 3 to 30 days of being infected, is what they say.
I'm just going to share a screen for a minute here.
And she's going to start showing some of my rashes.
These are some of the ones he had. He had the one on his neck.
The one on my neck, and again, the one on my shoulder there. And then that's the first one that basically ended up looking more like a bullseye once it didn't have the outside rings on it. But that's basically the way it was. And then that one, you can basically see the ring around the outside of that one on my leg. But the rashes can be just appear as red blotches. They can be raised up, or they could even be blisters. And that would be the number one thing for the symptom is rashes. The number two is for fatigue. And you can get the fatigue even if the rashes don't show up. If you don't get the rashes, or if you don't see a tick bite, you can get the fatigue. And that's what happened to start with me, is that I instantly had it. It's extreme tiredness, exhaustion, and a lack of energy. And the fatigue can take over your body and can be severe. And also in some cases with Lyme disease, if it's not treated the right way, the fatigue can become debilitating. And number three, we got achy, stiff, or swollen joints. And the pain can be transitory, which means that it can move from one spot to another. It's not a constant pain in any one joint. And it usually affects the major joints in your body, shoulders, hips, which
is one of the reasons why when they first diagnosed him, they actually diagnosed him that he was having issues with his hip, because he needed hip replacement on the one side. And they were just saying he was just overstressed from doing too much with his hip.
Okay, then we got did you have so far you're dealing with the fatigue right now, right? Is what you're talking. You have it kind of creeps up on you too.
It's I just started with the fatigue, and the thing that the doctors are looking at is sometimes after you first get into your antibiotics, it'll bring on symptoms that normally you would get later in the different phases of like say you had stage 3 Lyme disease. So for me right now, I'm a side sleeper. My shoulders get it real bad. My knees, after I'm standing all day, my knees just swell up and they get it really bad. I notice it a little bit in my ankles. So far, my hips have been pretty good. But I feel good after I've been up an hour or two. And then I last usually, I'm an early riser, so I last usually till about 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then it feels like I just got rolled over by a freight train. And
yeah, Judy can attest to the fact with when the fatigue hits me. I mean, I just get so totally exhausted that I'm done. I can't do anything else. I just need to go and lay down and go and go to sleep.
I think it's an excuse, but
yeah, it's funny how I get exhausted every time.
It's like, oh, honey, we should do this. Oh, I'm really tired. I should go lay down for a while.
Yeah, my wife says it's my excuse for not doing dishes with her. So we have the same thing in our family.
Okay, then we're going to go on to number 5. Number 5 is night sweats and sleep disturbances. And the disturbances would be pain, heat, and chills, different things that would cause you that would wake you up and you not be able to get a full night's sleep.
He was having really weird dreams. It was freaking me out the first night. He was laying there and he's going like this up in the air. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? And then he starts talking, and he was talking in full sentences. He was talking to my dad and stuff. It was weird.
but yeah, that's another thing that another symptom that I've got is that's really pronounced, because it's not as bad in the last week or so, but I've been off of the antibiotics now for over a month, and I seem to be getting better, better all of the time, and as far as that stuff goes.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
Now, with my doctors, they counseled me that, when you first get the antibiotics going, some of these symptoms might be a little bit more severe, but they also said, keep in contact with us, because once you've been off the antibiotics for, 2 or 3 weeks, if you're still experiencing some of these, the pain in your joints and things like that, then there are different avenues that they can take to try to give you relief. And instead of giving you the pill to take with the antibiotics, then they go with needles. And they can start hitting infected joints with medicine that you would take intravenously. So
they're actually doing a lot of good things for him. They're actually testing his heart and his liver and things that it can affect.
They've done all kinds of tests on my heart, and they've done all kinds of. Basically, about once every other week, I'm in there doing some other kind of test to make sure things are, but. I have joint pain, yes, in my right hip, because, like she said, I've got severe arthritis in my right hip. I had my left hip replaced already, and I should have had my right hip replaced then. And they keep on telling me when they do the X-rays and all that they say that you shouldn't be walking. There's no reason why you could possibly be walking, but I don't seem to. It doesn't seem to bother me that bad. I limp and waddle a little bit, but
that's the Marine in you. You never give up your fight.
That's right. Okay.
So Papa Drew, what you're saying is you don't do shots? Is that it? Oh, you don't get shots.
Number 6 is cognitive decline.
He definitely has that.
What? Number 6, cognitive decline.
Which number were you on? Number 6?
Yeah. This is where you may go to the store and forget what you went to the store for.
I think that's just old age, but.
Or if you start driving down the road to a place that you know how to get to, but you forget where you're going or how to get there, that kind of thing. We'll skip past that one because I don't like that one very much. But we'll go to number 7 is sensitivity to light and vision changes. I didn't get any of that. My vision hasn't changed or anything like that. There's been a couple of times where I get those little white things that float, the little floaters that you see, but nothing other than that. Okay, then number 8 is other neurological problems, which is like a loss of balance when it attacks your nervous system and stuff like that. You can get that, Bell's palsy, where it affects the
drooping in the muscle in the face.
On the side of your face. But it can also, it's not just, it can attack both sides so that both sides are paralyzed. So it can do a bunch of different things like that. And it also can cause you to lose your sense of taste and your sense of smell. And so again, those are symptoms that can be for a lot of other things, as far as, you start having the Bell's palsy and stuff like that signs of a stroke where one side of your face droops and, that type of thing. So there's a lot of things that it could be that they don't look for Lyme right away. They go to the other more common type of things that they think is something that you have to be looking out for. Number 9, skin outbreaks, rashes and bruises without cause, which is something I mean, I was taking the shower and I'm like, I got, what the heck is that bruise on the top of my foot? But I mean, I got a bruise, but it's probably from trying to kick mud off of my boots before I got in the car. The way I just look at it. But okay, then we get into the heart problems, and it's called Lyme carditis. Because that what I was talking about, the irregular heartbeat, and it causes the electrical impulses between the chambers. And so we already discussed that one, but number 11 is I don't have any issues with number 11, which is mood changes, being irritable, anxious, or depressed. And I don't get moody at all. Shut up.
Avenger RV wants to know, do they have a working test to determine if you have Lyme disease? Yes and no.
They do, like Karla said, that they can go by sight and start you on stuff. The blood test is not.
It's not definitive. There's actually 2 tests that you're supposed to do.
Right.
They can do the one to see.
They tested me 2 different times, 2 different types of tests. They tested me once, it was positive. They tested me a second time. And there's another tick that is just now starting to get into New York where they're having more cases, and that's from the Lone Star tick. So they wanted to rule out the fact that I got bit by the ticks, because there's a lot more than just Lyme that ticks spread. The Lone Star tick bite will cause you to become allergic to red meat. So you eat red meat and you have breakouts, and even as much as eating cheese, it'll affect you for that. So they did a test for that, but that was also the second testing to make sure that what it was actually Lyme that I had. So they did do 2 different tests that came back positive for Lyme and ruled out the Lone Star tick.
And Lyme disease is actually caused by a bacteria. So if you don't have the test they do is actually testing for the antibodies for the bacteria. So if you haven't had the disease long enough to build up the antibodies, then you can test negative for it. So that's, and like they say too, there's so many tests that mimic, or so many things that mimic Lyme disease too, that they don't always test for it.
The best.
Go ahead. One thing that I found was interesting is, how technology is advancing so rapidly right now. Johns Hopkins, I don't want to keep referring to them, but they're like the leading people right now researching this. They've actually got a program now that is diagnosing this better than the doctors can do themselves, where they will take a picture of the rash or the area that's affected and send it in through a computer program, and the computer will diagnose quickly and more effectively and give them more information from that one photo than what the doctors can give us right now. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
Right.
It's cool.
But yeah, there's so much stuff that's going on with the testing and stuff like that. And the best thing is that the testing can come back negative if you don't have it long enough, like Judy had said. But if you don't, the doctors, in your case and in my case, both started us on the antibiotics before they even were able to determine definitively that that's what it was. And that is, I think, the best course of action, because, like I said, the longer
better safe than sorry.
The longer you go, the longer you go without being diagnosed or starting on that antibiotics, the more it affects you, and the worst problems that you're going to have.
And like you had talked about in your case, where the VA wasn't real quick to act on your case, you have to serve as your own advocate.
Right.
These antibiotics aren't really going to have any negative effects on you. So my suggestion would be, and I'm no professional, but I've got a brother that worked in the medical field for a while, and he always told me, be your own advocate and push hard to get on those antibiotics. Don't let insurance companies, sway you away from it or anything. The faster you get on them, the less of the side effects you'll feel from the Lyme disease. So yeah, be your own advocate, push and get that medicine right.
I think that's for anything medical, because be your own advocate.
Yeah.
I think I got 2 more symptoms, and number 12 is unexplained pain or other sensations. And now that's something that I probably wouldn't really recognize as being something for Lyme, because I'm not really all that as healthy as I look. I've experienced I had a stroke while I was working on a farm trying to lift a horse up that couldn't get up. Then I had 2 aneurysms, and while they were trying to fix the aneurysms, it caused me to have 2 more strokes. So the very first stroke I had, I couldn't talk, and I had to be able to teach myself doing tongue twisters and stuff like that. So of course, now that I say that, people are going to probably recognize that I have words that draw out, or I slur words, or that type of thing. But after having the second and third stroke that I had while they were repairing the aneurysms, I have hypersensitivity in my hands. So at any given time, heat or something touches the back of my hand and it feels like somebody's jamming a nail through my hand. Or I touch something that's it could be cold and it'll feel like it's burning me because it's so hot. So I have that. So those types of symptoms, I don't have any way to be able to say, okay, that's Lyme disease, because I'm already experiencing that type of thing. But
when you shared symptom number 8, that was dizziness. A lot of times these symptoms don't necessarily have a pattern that they show up in. The first night after I realized what was going on, and when I really felt the bite the most severely, I got up probably about 2:00 in the morning to stoke the wood stove up, and I could not stand straight. I thought maybe it was the worst case of vertigo that I've ever had, and I didn't know if maybe I was having a heart attack or something, because our family has a history of heart issues. But the symptoms so far from my own experience is they have come in random waves. Now, I haven't had it real bad since then, but I have been sleeping a lot more since then, and maybe that had some effect on it. But that's one thing that I experienced, and if that helps anybody, hopefully it helps them. Like we talked about, this can just happen randomly, and be aware what's going on with your body.
Exactly.
Okay, and then the very last symptom is basically more for kids. Kids that have it, a sign of it would be as those that they regress in their growth. They start to go backwards in their development. So that's something that I didn't really look too much more into, but it's something as far as, if the kids have it, it's something to keep track of. That's pretty much all the symptoms and stuff that I have written down for us. And I got the thing as far as what the black legged ticks and that type of thing is what's going on. And another thing is that Lyme will not go away without treatment. If you have Lyme, make sure you take care of it. It's not going to go away just by giving it some time or whatever. That all you're doing is making the situation worse.
Just the prevention.
All right. Well, trying to prevent it, aside from applying DEET and putting that permethrin on your clothes to try to keep the ticks off. They say that if when you come in out of the woods or get out where you could have exposure, if you take a shower within 2 hours of being outside, that helps reduce your chances of it. Make sure that you clear away any leafy debris around the edges of the lawn, and wood chips and mulch and gravel, that type of thing.
Well, that's where our dog always picks them up, because he walks around the exact perimeter and runs into the bushes and stuff like that. And just keep your yard clean, because they like the edges of it.
I was just reading Mark's comment, Arkansas woodcutter.
Yeah.
And it is treatable, but not in all cases.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are stuck with this for life.
Right.
So, and everybody's chemical makeup is different. So just like you and I in our talking have had different reactions to it and things like that. There's some people that even after they do antibiotics and then get the needle, the injections, that still are stuck with this for life.
Yeah, like somebody else mentioned higher in the chat that Tara from Changing Lanes is afflicted with Lyme disease, and she has it pretty bad, and has different symptoms from every once in a while.
Now, again, the ticks, different ticks can give you different things also, because my sister had gotten bit by a tick in Tennessee when she was down visiting in Tennessee, and she got Rocky Mountain spotted fever from that tick. So she's been dealing with that. And she still is right now, that was probably 15, 20 years ago. And she's still on medicine and vitamins that she has to take in order to take care of that. And I don't know if there's anybody else that has any questions for Karl at all, or us, and we can talk about, but pretty much a lot of us, a lot of the people that follow us are RV channels, and they spend a lot of time out camping and going to different areas and going, traveling all over the country to different places. But we cross, our communities cross. Like I found Karl, I've been watching Karl work on his cabin now since he towed it in there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the community from him is more like the off-grid community, the homesteading communities and stuff like that. Arkansas woodcutter, they're, all of that stuff. I watch so many different things. Almost the common bond between all of us is being outside. Everybody's outside, everybody's doing something. And so everybody's got the same opportunity to come across the ticks the same way we did.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't discriminate. And I've always kind of felt blessed to be here in Wisconsin, because we don't have half the bugs that the rest of the nation has. And so I thought mosquitoes, black flies, and ticks, I can deal with that. But man, they'll get you.
Oh, yeah.
So any more we want to add on the subject, or we want to talk about something fun now?
No, but I'm pretty much tapped out on my notes.
Do you have anything else on that subject that you want to add?
There's some personal things that I'm kicking over, whether I should add or not, but different life experiences that I've had earlier in life. I went through a pretty traumatic experience where I was held up at gunpoint and brought into a bank robbery, and all these different things happen. And with that, my doctor suggested that I may have PTSD, and it's much more involved than that. But it was interesting. I've learned from you during this live stream, about how it can affect emotions and bring up different things. One thing that I noticed is I do have a bit of depression that's came in with it. And some of the symptoms that I had after I went through that, tragic experience started to resurface again. My sleeping patterns are horrible. I maybe sleep an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'm up. And physically I'm aching, and then mentally there's different games that are going on inside my mind as well, with the depression and everything else. So It can be some really serious stuff. Not, just physically are you going to feel ailments, but mentally it can stir up things as well. So people should be aware of that.
The first.
Well, that's
what brought it on the first night.
The PTSD is something that affected with me as well. So it's something that that brought things back to me that and that I've kind of repressed and kept down. But PTSD is just kind of
PTSD.
I can't.
It's that cognitive thing going on again.
But there we go. But the thing that I've always been able to put it away. I've always been able to tuck it away. But the biggest thing that I found too is that it is not to be ashamed of it and to be able to face it straight on and talk about it to anybody. I mean, don't let. I understand where you're coming from, the depression that comes from it, because there were days in the last few months that I felt really down and about things. And again, that was brought on because of all of this. So just always know there's somebody out there that you can talk to, even if you don't think that you can talk to anybody, there's always somebody to talk to.
I concur with that. If you don't talk about it, these things are just going to stir up inside. And for me as a man, you're not supposed to have these goofy emotions and these feelings. So oftentimes, you want to be the protector of your family and your loved ones. You don't share this with anybody because, you're always putting other people first. But yeah, the only way to really, for me, to get over it and have any type of therapy is just to vocalize and share those feelings like you had brought up in your comment.
I started with group therapy and that type of thing, and that did help. But I just need to talk about it every so often to make sure everything goes out okay and keeps continuing to go fine the way it is. But
it's important. It's important to get it. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
It's important to get in with a good support group, especially if you can find a man or a woman, if you're a female that has it, a support group where people have gone through some type of depression, because it isn't something you're ever going to be able to handle on your own.
Right. Goodbye, Justin and Christina. Thank you for coming in. I say they were just taking off. And yeah, well, we're going to probably start winding this back down. We've got about 7 minutes left. But
so you want to talk some more about your channel, what you have coming up, or? So
for me, right now we're coming into the season where things are going to slow down. It has me a little bit worried. My cabin is out in the middle of nowhere. So I have to deal with all the snow that Wisconsin gets. I don't know how close you guys are to a Great Lake, but I'm dead smack in the center of Lake Michigan and Lake Superior.
You know where Lake Erie is and Buffalo is? Yeah, we're right there.
So
right, exactly we're fortunate right now. We're actually staying with my mom, taking care of my mom, and she's north of Buffalo, and they don't get as much snow up here, so it's going to be kind of nice.
So unfortunately, by the cabin, it's not uncommon to get, 6 to 8 feet of snow coverage on the ground. For me to be able to get to the cabin is really a tough adventure. But I'm going to do my best to get out there. So I think most of my progress on building the cabin is going to restart in the springtime. I've got some great projects that are going to start, that I'm going to start doing. I'm going to talk about water collection. I'm going to build a bathhouse, probably put in my own septic system, drive a sand point for a well. So I've got a lot of good things that are coming up. It's just this lousy weather that I'm going to have to deal with until we can get rolling again.
Well, you've been doing an amazing job inside that cabin. I really enjoy watching it.
Thank you so much.
I mean, with the steel that you put along the roof, and all of that, so that the light reflects, so that it's easier to light the place. putting in both AC and DC power it's amazing to watch. I've been really enjoying it.
You know, I was thinking a lot about you because a couple times I've heard you talk now about with your RV how you'd like to use more DC power in there. And the worst part is the batteries. But once you get past the fear and you get a good battery bank, that solar is such a blessing. You know, I was just talking with my wife. I said the best thing now that we've had it for a good half a year, we were talking about what are our favorite things about it. And for me, my favorite thing, no utility bills. That solar's incredible. It's something that I hope to grow a little bit more and learn about it. But I think people could really benefit from learning about that stuff. So I admire you that you're going to pursue that with your RV. So
there's a good couple in our community called the Dry Camper. He does solar installs. You might want to check him out.
Oh, I'll definitely have to check him out and subscribe. So
we're going to try to raid Northwood's RV. Oh, I see Sue already put it in there. Boy, Sue's on top of things. Thank you, Sue. But we're going to try to head over and catch up with them. Karl, I thank you very much for coming and sharing your experiences with us. And don't think that I'm not going to be giving you a call and talking to you from time to time. Okay, we'll keep in touch.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. I've been watching you guys probably not too long after you started your show, and I just love watching you, and the topics that you bring up are incredible. If we wouldn't have been stricken with a bunch of medical problems, you know, it was our dream too to maybe one day get into an RV and to be able to be a snowbird and dodge the cold weather. But, it's pretty awesome, this community that we have, and I'm grateful for you inviting me.
But life sometimes gets in the way, so we do what we do to make ourselves happy anyway, right?
So sometime we'll have to drive the RV out to Wisconsin and visit with you. And
you always have a place in Wisconsin.
All right. Okay. We want to thank you again, and we're going to let you go.
Thanks, everybody. We're just going to sign off, right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll thank everybody. We're running out of time here. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. Arkansas Woodcutter, thank you for coming in here. Avenger RV Adventures.
Papa Drew, Sweet Pea Farms.
Fantastic Travels. Justin and Christina, they've left already.
Fantastic Travels.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, we're going to go ahead and let you go. And
we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye.